Okay, this time everybody take their seats. We'll get ready to go. Okay, those who come up to speak today, number one, it might be easier to take the mic out of the stand. Much easier to hear everybody. There's also a mic here on the podium. I just ask, don't pick that up. Not to scare you to death, but this is broadcast live. So we thank the Blackford Sports Network back there for putting this out on YouTube for everybody to see across the nation if they wish to do so. I want to thank everybody for coming to the 6th Hall of Fame induction ceremony. A few quick thank yous before we begin. We want to thank our President and Treasurer, Sally Rinker, our first Vice President, Dave Bowman, and our second Vice President, Russ Sutton. The Hall of Fame board members are Vince Brown, Missy Jones, Bill Morris, Ed Thurman, Orville Lugan, and myself, I'm Tony Ugan. A special thanks to those who helped make this all possible. Crabtree Photography is here taking pictures. If anybody wants pictures of the event, feel free to contact Crabtree and they can set you up with pictures. Danny Cairns is here. Thank my wife Lisa in the back. She's taking pictures for me for a Facebook page. We'll put those on later on today. Thanks to Granny's Bloomers for providing the table centerpieces and ADM Custom Creations for doing the Hall of Fame plaques. We also thank Richard's Restaurant for catering the dinner. They did a great job today. And our PHS custodial staff for doing a great job. And again, we thank Steve Hurd and the Blackford Sports Network for being here and broadcasting this. Certainly, congratulations to the Hall of Famers. I don't want to take away from Bill Morris's speech, but Warren Barterhoff, Chris and Christy Jenner-John, Elizabeth Beth, as we knew her lead, Jack Norton, Chris Strobel, and the 71-72 Bruins. I will mention that the Hall of Fame case was moved downstairs, thankfully. It used to be upstairs where nobody could find it, so we tore all the awards off the wall, and we're going to actually redo everything. I know there were several who should have been up there that weren't up there that we discovered, so we're working on that. And we also found there were some few mistakes here and there, so we're working on that. That'll get up hopefully by next fall, but the Hall of Fame case is up, and your plaques from this year are already hanging in there. My apologies to Greg Flintz. I did everything I could not to misspell his name, and I did on the plaque. So we're going to fix. Greg has 2 cheese, so we'll get that fixed and put back up soon. Special congratulations from Leroy Robbins. He had hoped to be here today from Cincinnati. Unfortunately, Leroy slipped in his garage here today, hustling as he always did, and he fell down, and he said he can't sit in the car for 3 hours. So he really wanted to be here, so hopefully he's watching at home, but he congratulates all of you. I believe there's at least 2 more Hall of Famers here. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Bill Johnson is here, and Coach Leith, I believe, is here as well. So, and John Strout. John Strout is not here, and he got put in earlier, so he's here as well, and he's obviously the coach of the team. Bill Morris broadcasted or was the voice of the Blackford Bruins for several years for WWHC, a long-time career. Standing over 20 years, and then once WWHC closed down in the early to mid-'80s, he moved on to Portland Radio, where he still works part-time, I believe. So we're really happy, and if there's anybody who knows a lot about Blackford athletics, it'd be Bill Morris, so we're glad to have him here today to speak to all of you guys. So let's turn on to our main speaker, Mr. Bill Morris.
Thank you so much, Tony. He asked me to deliver the opening remarks today, and the only thing that he said was that I needed to limit my remarks to 8 minutes. So as a result, welcome. Short enough for you, Tony? Okay. Well, seriously, it is an honor to be here today. It was my great pleasure to have served as the radio voice. Can you hear me out there? You can hear me? Even Eldon can hear me in his advancing years. Now, it was my pleasure to serve as the radio voice of the Blackford Bruins for over 20 years, and having the opportunity to provide live play-by-play coverage on literally hundreds of football, basketball, and baseball games. And looking in the rearview mirror, which I do a lot of these days, we were so fortunate to have so many talented and dedicated athletes and coaches, as well as loyal fans during that time. So what I'm going to invite you to do now is to hop in the time machine with me, and let's travel back 50 years ago. Now, even though I can't recall my words from then, and actually I can't even recall what I didn't have for breakfast this morning, I'm going to rely on the words of the late Howard Parkinson. He was better known as Parky, who was the News Times sports writer. Now, a short explanation is in order here. Parky was a crusty old curmudgeon sporting a full head of wavy white hair. And Parky took pride in reporting what he saw and putting it in the paper. Back in 1967, the Hartford City Airedale football team, coached by the esteemed Eldon Leith, was suffering through a particularly miserable season. Parky wrote in the paper that the team was listless and lackluster. Now, all of you know Eldon, and I'm sure you know how well Eldon probably took that. Well, when Parky showed up at the next practice, the team in unison shouted, "Here comes our listless and lackluster scribe." Thanks to Stu Armstrong for that story. Now, back to the point of my story. While listening to Ed Thurman broadcast the Blackford and Winchester game back on January the 18th, it jogged my memory back to 50 years earlier. These two same teams competed in the first ever high school basketball game played in the new Blackford High School gym. That date, January the 16th, 1970. I have to turn the page. Prior to that, the old Hartford City High School gym had served as home court while the new gym was being finished. Now, the final time they used the old Hartford hardwood came on January the 2nd. And here's what Parky had to say in the run-up to that game. These are Parky's words, not mine. "Blackford's Bruins are poised, and it is hoped to be ready for the big one this evening at the old high school gymnasium on North Walnut Street. Huntington's powerful Vikings are coming to town for a Central Indiana battle, one that will test the mettle of John Strout's team to the very limit. Huntington, rated number 4 in the state by the pollsters, held number 1 Roosevelt to a 57-55 game, and to say it is the most important game of the season for the Bruins goes without too much comment. A turnaway throng is expected to be on hand for what is hoped to be the last game in the old gymnasium. The new gym will be ready for the January 16th game with Winchester as the opponent. Only 100 tickets were sent to Huntington, and the walls of the old ancient high school gymnasium will be filled to the rafters." And indeed, the stands were filled to the rafters as the fans watched the Bruins nearly upset the high-flying Vikings, falling short by an 85-81 score. So we fast forward to the night of January 16th, 1970. Although it wasn't a sellout crowd, the fans packed in the stands got to see Jerry Brown, Tex Johnson, Dennis Pratt, Neil Strobel, and Dave Holloway become the first Bruins starters to take the floor in the new gym. And what a game it turned out to be. Here's what Parky had to say. "The Blackford Bruin opener in their new field house opened their new field house in proper style as they got by Winchester's Golden Falcons 84-83 in a wild and woolly battle that had the fans on their collective ears. I'm not making that up, that's what it says here. So the fans were on their collective ears before the game was over. Down 49-42, the Bruins of John Strout suddenly came to life and ran off 25 points while holding the visitors from Randolph County to just 12, an item which proved to be the turning point of the game as Winchester rallied to outscore the Bruins in the last 8 minutes. Paul Wolf, not a Blackford player, from Winchester, hitting from the side with 2 seconds left to permit Blackford to escape with their 1-point win. And for the record, Denny Pratt is credited with the first Bruin points with his field goal in the new gym to give the Bruins a 2-2 tie score. Now, nice things to be said about John Strout by Parkey. John Strout, Okay, again, Bill. John Strout, a man of decision if ever there was one, did not hesitate to run players in and out to meet the situation, and things seemed to work out correctly. 10 men were shuttled in and out to preserve the precarious win. Thus, the Bruins christened their new gym with a win and repeated the feat the next night, beating Eastbrook. The Bruins went on to win the sectional on their new home court and advanced to the championship game of the regional, defeating Marion in overtime 80-70, then losing in the championship game to eventual state finalist Carmel 76-67. The Bruins completed their inaugural season with a 16-7 record. So, here's to the Blackford High School gym in its first 50 years. Sure wish I looked as good as it did after 50 years. One more story, since Ross Elwood's up here in the front. This is totally unplanned. No, we have to. I have the picture in my mind of Ross Elwood in the post. Now, Ross was a darn good player, okay? But his reflexes were maybe just a little bit slow. And I always can remember the passes into the post, and here's what happened. I'm Ross. Here comes the ball. Ross's hands are open. There goes the ball. Isn't that right, Stroud? Hey, thank you very much. Congratulations to all of our Hall of Fame inductees tonight, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here and do whatever I do. Thank you very much.
First off, let me say, anything I know what to do with a microphone, that guy taught me. So if I drop it, blame him. I could tell a couple of stories too, but I'll wait for the appropriate moment. And no, I'm not going to tell any Bill Morris stories, because he could tell just as many about me. But 47 years in radio, and he's the guy that got me into it. Thank you, Bill. Let's talk about the people who are going into our Hall of Fame today. There's some really, really very special people. A very special team from that 1971-72 squad. We'll get to them in just a minute. We're going to start off with the first inductee today, who is not here in body, but I just can't help but think that Orrin Barger-Huff's looking down from heaven right now, and the Big O, as he was known, is probably smiling widely. Orrin Barger-Huff played a little football during his career, but eventually he was a 6'6" center, known for his efforts on the hardwood. He averaged a double-double, 16.2 points and 14.4 rebounds per game in his senior year, and led that 71-72 Bruins boys basketball team to a 22-4 record, a sectional title. A year earlier, he had helped the 1970-71 team to a 20-4 record and another sectional title. Now, combined, the Bruins were 42-8 with the Big O in the middle, the best basketball record over a 2-year period that Blackford has seen. Barger-Huff is still listed on the all-time leaders list at Blackford High School. He was all-CIC. He scored 422 points, which is still 8th best for a single season. Now, in 375 rebounds is first all-time in a season. 375 in 1 year. That's almost unheard of. And he scored 700 points in the span of just 2 years. That's currently good for still 12th all-time. Didn't have a three-point basket back then. And he saved his best for last. Regional championship game against Anderson-Madison Heights. He scored 33 points, which was a record at that point. 15 of 23 from the field. The Bruins came close, almost knocked off the Madison Heights Pirates, but lost 68-64, but he still was named the outstanding player of that tournament. Now, after graduation from Blackford, Orrin Barger-Huff continued playing. He took his talents to DePaul University. He majored in economics, and yes, he played basketball there. In fact, he started 4 straight years with the team as a forward and center. After college then, he briefly tried farming, but changed his course and went into securities, working at Northern Trust in Chicago. He eventually moved on to Dallas. He started his own securities lending business. He was debating moving his office to the Turks and Caicos because he owned some property there, but he met his wife, Rita, and they settled down and stayed close to Dallas. Well, they were married in 1997, but in early 2000, Orrin was diagnosed with a form of leukemia, which eventually would take his life. Now, his brother Rick was listed as a match as a donor for bone marrow for a transplant, and he did donate. Rick, however, was not enough, and it was needed. The disease progressed through the transplant. It was Orrin's strength, though, and perseverance as he completed several triathlons during his lifetime, but it wasn't enough. We lost him March 16, 2002. His brother Rick remembers him as being always a big guy, someone to look up to. He had a good high school career and then went on to play 4 years in college. He said, "We're very proud of his accomplishments at DePaul," and then he went on to run a very successful business. When asked if his brother ever commented about his basketball career, his brother Rick said, "I remember a comment he made about his final game against Anderson-Madison Heights and Bobby Wilkerson, who went on to IU, won a national championship, and played 10 years in the pros. But he outshined him that night, and he always could step up to a challenge." He is now a member of our Blackford Hall of Fame, and let's give a nice round of applause for the Big O, Orrin Barger-Huff. Let me go on to a couple of people, and sometimes people think this is just an athletic Hall of Fame. No, we honor a lot of athletes because we've had a lot of them and a lot of good ones. But there's other success stories out here, and we want to honor a lot of those too. We have a young couple here who has done quite well for themselves and for the community. Chris and Christy Jennerjohn. They are quite the success story indeed. Now, they began dating their freshman year here at Blackford, and both graduated in 1987 and vowed to leave town never to return. How many of us have said that? Present company included. But it happens, and we're glad we did, and I did. Christy headed to Florida to Southern College in Lakeland, Florida. She earned a degree in mathematics and computer science. Chris moved to Wisconsin and earned a degree in mechanical engineering from the Milwaukee School for Engineering. Well, after graduation, Christy accepted a job as a computer programming with Capital Bankers in downtown Milwaukee. and Chris became an engineer at Environex in Waukesha, and they got married August 31st, 1991. They soon realized that many of the things they thought they disliked about their hometown were precisely the things they missed. And about that time, Brian Jenner-John, Chris's father, also asked him to consider coming home and working for the family business. So they returned home, and in July of 1993, Christy began working as a computer programming for Foster Forbes in Marion, and Chris served as an engineer designing equipment for Jenner-John Machine. Chris eventually became the president, and Christy served in accounting. They ultimately purchased the company from Chris's parents, Brian and Ruth Jenner-John, and that was in 2011. Now, the company specializes in automated equipment and employs 48 people. Their equipment is located in 23 countries. It produces a variety of products that you encounter every single day. It's estimated that over 80% of all cash register roll receipt paper in the United States is produced on Jenner-John rewinders. If you've ever purchased anything from Amazon, the box it came in was sealed with Amazon box tape, produced on Jenner-John rewinders. Their company also provides the equipment that produces the majority of all house wrap in the United States, and the company is rapidly becoming the premier choice for converters of vehicle wrap. Well, Christy serves as the president now of the Blackford County Community Foundation, and she's on the board of directors for the Arts Place, the Good Seed Initiative, and the Helen Lieber Early Learning Academy. Chris and Christy are so glad they chose to move back to Blackford County, and they made the home here in 1993, and they're very proud of the Bruins. Chris and Christy have 4 children, Adam, Allie, Evan, and Sophia. Sophia is currently a sophomore at Blackford and is a varsity cheerleader, helping us to be fired up for our Bruins. They're truly success stories, and we're glad to have them here today. Would you welcome the latest members of our Hall of Fame, Chris and Christy Jenner-John.
Hi. Just want to say a brief thank you to let you know we're happy to receive this. I had to laugh when Missy Jones called me to tell me that we were nominated for this because I'm like the least athletic person there is. And so then she explained to me that it wasn't the athletic award. So, okay, that makes sense. So anyway, thank you for this. And I'm going to let Chris do the rest.
Well, just like Christy, I want to thank the Hall of Fame committee for recognizing us and also for recognizing Jenner-John Machine. By recognizing, we're very honored, but by recognizing Jenner-John Machine, you're also by default recognizing all the hard work and the money and the risk and the time that my parents, Brian Jenner-John, sacrificed. Brian and Ruth Jenner-John sacrificed when my father left 3M about 40 years ago to start Jenner-John Machine. So we thank you for that recognition of them as well. Most people have no idea what Jenner-John Machine does, and they'll never come in direct contact with any of the equipment that we make, but you will come in contact with the products that our machines make. And just about everybody in the country will come across those products on a daily basis. We're very proud of what the company has become, and we're very proud of the close-knit group of 48 employees that have been able to accomplish so much with such a small company. Christy and I have been blessed to have been involved with the company at an early age. We've been blessed to help foster its growth and to finally purchase the company in 2011. But the lessons that the very fortunate lessons that we were able to learn here 30 years ago, we're so thankful for. They all played a significant role in helping us to achieve the success that we've enjoyed since graduation. We were blessed with a lot of excellent teachers and a lot of excellent coaches. Christy was fortunate enough to have Judy Trees as her math teacher and Bob McAfee as her computer science teacher. And both of those teachers impacted her and helped her develop her interest in computer science, where she eventually earned a bachelor's degree in mathematics and computer science. I was also blessed to have Mrs. Trees as a math teacher, but I also was touched by people like Bob Lanning, who, when I just started here, we just got our first computer-aided design software, and he got that up and running and going and taught me about that. And Dennis Green, who was a physics teacher. And together, those people, through math, they helped really spur my interest in math and computer science, physics, and everything mechanical, which eventually led me to go get a mechanical engineering degree. But Blackford County teachers, I think, taught us much more than athletics. The teachers that I came in contact here with, they really taught us a lot about life and prepared us for that. And one of the best people that Christy and I both think did a great job of doing that was somebody by the name of Ken Klein. Christy and I both had him for our government classes, and we both very quickly learned that there were just no excuses. You had to get your government homework done. You had to get your government notebooks completed. He was a no excuse kind of guy. Now, I also had him as a basketball coach, and that started in 8th grade. I can tell you at that time I did not like Ken Klein. In 8th grade, he had us, we had morning practices, so we would start morning practices at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and Ken said we may not have any talent, but we were going to be conditioned, and so we would run over 100 ladders, side ladders, in the morning before school, and we quickly learned that Ken he wasn't going to give us any excuses. We had to get that done, and what he would do is he would place puke buckets in every corner of the gym, so that when our Pop-Tarts eventually came up, we had someplace to put them. So when 8th grade year was done, I was so excited and happy to move on to 9th grade, but unfortunately, Mr. Stroud promoted him to the 9th grade basketball coach. And while I didn't realize it at the time, what Ken was teaching us, Christy and all of my teammates, is that we needed to expect more out of ourselves that we thought we could ever give. And we learned that we could achieve more if we challenged ourselves. Another person that I'd like to mention is Mike Richardson. He was my football coach and Christy's psychology teacher. He taught me a lot about football, but he taught us all about how to live a quality life. Many of his lessons centered on respect and centered on class. And before every single football game, he would tell us, with spit flying out of his mouth like it always did, he would tell us that we need to hit our opponents, and we need to hit them hard, and we need to drive them into the ground. But as soon as the whistle blew, we needed to extend a hand, and we needed to help that player out and tell him we'll see him in 30 seconds. He said we needed to play with class. And I'm grateful as I see Tony always pushing that and keeping that consistent within our athletic program today. I often wish that the leaders of our government, Republicans and Democrats, would learn some of the lessons that Coach Richardson and Teacher Richardson taught us about class and respect. I think the world would be a better place. So Christy and I are very grateful for our time here at Blackford County, Blackford High School, and also our children's time. All 4 of them have gone through this school. Thank you for recognizing us tonight, and we are very proud to be Blackford Bruins.
Chris and Christy Jennerjohn, congratulations. Well, our next inductee, I have to admit, when I saw the biography, it's like, Elizabeth? Who's Elizabeth? I didn't know her as Elizabeth. I knew her as Beth. I married one of her best friends, so I knew who Beth Leaf was, but I didn't realize your name was Elizabeth. Well, I learned something. She is a remarkable young woman. She has had a great career in the field of science and medicine. She's currently the assistant professor and assistant director of the graduate program in genetic counseling at Northwestern University in Chicago. Now, she graduated from Purdue University in 1986 with a BS in science and teacher education and general science teacher education. Well, after a short career teaching and coaching, she enrolled at the IU School of Medicine, where she graduated with a Master of Science in Genetic Counseling back in 1993. And for over 20 years, she provided prenatal genetic counseling at North Shore University Health System in the Center for Maternal and Fetal Health, where she was the manager of the department for 8 years, and Northwestern University's graduate program in genetic counseling. Since 2014, she's been involved in the development of the Lab Utilization Program at Ann and Robert Lurie Children's Hospital in Chicago, providing counseling for test consent, coordinating lab utilization efforts, and designing and overseeing the lab utilization and clinical student rotation. How's that for a title? She's also served as the genetic counselor for the Sex Development Clinic at Lurie. Beth's been involved with the Northwestern Graduate Program in Genetic Counseling as a clinical supervisor for over 23 years and as a co-instructor for the 3 primary genetics courses for the program for more than 10 years. She joined the Northwestern University GPGC full-time in 2016 as the assistant director, where she teaches and coordinates curriculum development. She enjoys both the educational and clinical aspects of her roles. She's been an assistant professor of pediatrics at the Feinberg School of Medicine at Northwestern since 2007. And in addition, she'll continue to provide counseling for the Sex Development Clinic on a part-time basis. She's also active at both the national and local genetic counseling advocacy levels. She previously served on the board of directors of the group and the Genetic Task Force of Illinois, and currently is a member of the Billing and Reimbursement Committee for that organization. She's also worked with the Illinois Department of Public Health on genetics education in the past, and is currently awaiting appointment for membership to the Genetic and Metabolic Diseases Advisory Committee. Now, one of our other Hall of Famers, Gary Cheeseman, remembers her well. Hard-nosed and determined, Beth probably got that attitude from getting picked on by her brother Joe, but it played out well, and when you watched her play athletics, it just paid off. Some athletes just stand out for their hustle, grit, and attitude, and he says that was Beth at Blackford. Beth has lived on the north side of Chicago in the Andersonville neighborhood for the last 26 years. She enjoys hiking on the lakefront, City Sights Theater, and the amazing restaurants there. This past summer, she survived a 175-mile bike trip in Holland with her Purdue friends. And today we welcome her to the Blackford Hall of Fame. Elizabeth Beth Lee.
Well, thank you very much. It's certainly an honor, and I can echo both the Jenner John saying, yeah, it was quite a surprise when I got the call, too. And my friend Jody even said, I don't know why they were calling me for your number. I don't know that you ever played sports. I had to remind her that she never scored without me giving her the basketball, but we'll get to that. And thank you for not, there were definitely worse pictures, so thank you for picking some that weren't so bad. It is certainly an honor, and I know you've heard that certainly I share being in this with my father, and I think my brother too, from one of the baseball games, teams that he was on. So I guess I come from a line, and we'll get to that with the genetics of which I work. The qualifications, Jody just reminded me, were that I was able to graduate from high school, which was good, and that I'm apparently old enough to be in here. So that's how I got here. You know, I know one of the past Hall of Famers was an astronaut. Certainly not an astronaut. I've been called a spacehead before. But then I saw Jack was being inducted as well, so I figured, oh, well, I guess it's game over for anybody. So this is about success, and I went and looked up what success meant, really, and it said an attainment of goals. And I think that's kind of a moving target. I've had successes and failures depending on how you say it and what you're doing. I've had goals that I have not succeeded at. I've went to college to be a biomedical engineer. I am not a biomedical engineer. That's why I went to Purdue. You could see that as a failure. But I think as you grow, your goals change. The basic part I think about what success is for me is to like what you do and have people around you that you can share it with. And that really came from what I believe this town has given us. So no matter what you did in Hartford City, people knew about it, right? They always watched you. I grew up, everybody knew who I was. They knew I was the coach's daughter. And that is part of what, makes you who you are. And sure, that listless and lackluster thing that we just heard about was not something that was expected at our house. You're not allowed to do that. I remember in the backyard playing catch with my brother and father when I was around 7 and being very clearly told if you can touch it, you can catch it. And I'm like, I'm 7, but it's okay. But it certainly made me who I am today by those and all the people who have followed. And I wouldn't be where I am or who I am. I don't live here. I live in Chicago, as you heard. But I certainly very much hold on to my small town community roots. And I get teased about it often, and I don't mind. I tell it a lot. What have I learned? I love teaching. Why do I love teaching? Because I had great teachers. I had great teachers at home. I had great teachers in school. All through elementary, junior high. I have some of our junior high teachers here today, certainly in high school. People who really actually liked what they were doing and showed me that I should like learning. Mr. Osborne, who stood up there in math, where we like to just watch him actually write on the board for any of those my age. We like doing that, Mr. Osborne, I admit it. But we also ended up liking math. It's also how I became a hurdler. Mentors who said, Beth, you can be a hurdler. I don't know if you've all seen my legs. They're no business for to be a hurdler. And I failed as a hurdler with respect to never winning anything. But that wasn't the part. It was being on the team and having fun and watching Marsha Brown, after she was about 8 hurdles ahead of me, turn around and say, hey, keep going. You can do this. So that perseverance, that teamwork is what we have learned. The other two was actually just the importance of caring for people. I am in the healthcare business. I love what I do, and I learned that here. As we did this, I was just talking to Rhonda McJunkin, who we used to sit at this back table over here in the corner every day for lunch and to learn about how we just care for each other and what we would do, and that's what I heard. So the importance of relationships is what I learned, and that perseverance and that teamwork. So even though I wasn't, as you could read, wasn't able to actually run those ladders very fast, as my teammates will tell you, they didn't exactly hate me when I made them run more because I was always last, but it all worked out. So small communities, strong relationships, that's what I really think really matters, and it takes a village. And that's why I think that we all are here today, because you guys are recognizing people that still make a difference and will make a difference to the children to come. And it doesn't mean we always have to be good at what we're doing. I was just talking to Cheryl Elwood about our very fun memories of her being our assistant coach, and really probably didn't understand the difference between offense and defense. But really was there for us, right? And helped us to work and laughed and giggled with us when we didn't do well, but also expected us to do a good job. And that makes a difference, so that when you do fail, you know it can still go on. That's important. I used to babysit for our teachers and our coaches. That's the other part of that community that I think that big cities don't quite understand. That you get to know the people. They care about you for different reasons. Coach Moore, who I babysat for, and he was my driver's ed teacher, which was scary because he slept usually while we were driving. But, made a difference when it was hard. It was a hard time for me. Unfortunately, it was when my father had his first bypass surgery, and so I missed a lot of the classes that were there. But to get my driving in, he actually let me drive over to the hospital to visit my father. Those things you don't get everywhere, and this is the part that really makes you know that people will be there for you. I think everyone in this room had a part of forming who I am, I think, or someone in this room, and I want to thank you all for that. But I also think they're exemplified in so many people who are here. I have my own classmates who have done things that have been so great, that have gone back and committed themselves to be teachers, like Jack and Rhonda here in their own community, which is great. I have classmates who have taken in, I have good friends who have taken in a young lady at the age of 50, a 9-year-old whose family life was hard, who's now legal guardianships for them. I have friends who go and take soups and fix computers for their 90-year-old golf buddy. These are people that I look up to. I don't need to be a professor. I don't need to do anything. These are people who I think actually are true Hall of Famers. So I need to get back to that working for genetics, though, because I think I also want to make sure to say that genetics does play a part. It's not just the community. I get a lot of my drive from my parents. It is obviously in my DNA. And I think that that really is a matter of something that is really important for me. So, Dad, thank you for, giving me that catch the ball. Damn it. I appreciate that. Mom, thank you for, saying don't listen to him when I came inside. Appreciate that. And really also must say, of all the Hall of Famers that aren't inducted, actually Patty Leaf really should be in. I don't know if too many people know about the number of times she washed football uniforms, including those athletic supporters and not the people. Taking water over to the practices when there were 2 or 3 practices a day and buying bubble gum. I remember going when I was very young, buying bubble gum and taking them over. So she is a true Hall of Famer as well. And again, I know I have just as much of her DNA and me as well. So one last little story. When I was thinking about going to college, I wanted to go to Northwestern University. I thought that was a really cool place. It was well known. My parents drove me up to Chicago. They hate driving to Chicago, to be clear, but they drove me up to Chicago on a winter, very cold day to have an interview because, of course, we weren't going to be able to afford going to Northwestern. So I'm like, they'll give me a scholarship, no problem. So I went in and I talked to this lady by myself, and she was talking to me. And, I had done well in school. I thought, this is no problem. And she asked me, though, very pointedly, so that's a small school. I said, well, yeah, I guess. I don't know. I don't go to other schools. And she goes, what do you think makes you be able to think that you can compete with the people who are coming with AP classes and have had other opportunities to have different things? And I just looked at her and I said, well, I don't know. I've done as well as I could and where I'm at, so what makes you think I couldn't? And I think that, I got that attitude from here because all the people there said, you can do what you want to do. People can do what they want to do, whether it's, work stay in your hometown, go out, do whatever. My parents taught me that when they moved over here with me, was 6 months old and knew nobody. You can do what you want to do. I didn't get into Northwestern, so I couldn't do that. But to be clear, they're now paying me to teach their students. So. And it cost a lot less to get that education from Purdue. So that worked out well for me. But it also gave me, people who have been there with me for all the time. My friends who I went on, some of my friends I went on that 175-mile bike ride are here with me today. They have helped me. I have a friend who got me through calculus because I wouldn't be here today without that. So thank you, Jen. And these are great. So thank you very much, and go Bruins.
Thank you, Beth. And to settle a bet, Rhonda and I talked about how long will Beth talk. I said 10 minutes. 9:42. You win, Rhonda. We're glad to have you in the Hall of Fame.
You didn't give me a time.
Oh, well, anyway. Our next inductee is known around this building by a lot of the students just as Norton. We've had 4 kids who have had Norton in class the last few years, and we're glad that they have had that opportunity. Jack Norton, on his athletic dates, was an all-state defensive back as a junior in 1980. He repeated as a senior in 1981 and was also named to the North All-Star squad for the summer of 1982. He also earned all CIC honors as a senior. He was a three-sport athlete his entire career. Now, during his junior season back in 1981, Norton set the school record for interceptions at a season with 11. That record stood until 1984. Norton still holds the career interception record with 16. And Norton is certainly proud of being a part of the 1979 state championship football team. He said the ride was a great time. Our senior class was part of 29 varsity wins from 79 through 81, and we also won 60 baseball games. Norton patrolled the outfield for the Bruins in baseball, again taking advantage of his speed and his quickness. He earned all CIC honorable mention honors his junior year, and he would follow his head baseball coach at Blackford, Craig Moore, to IUPUI, where he would further his career. Norton's baseball coach and Hall of Famer Gary Cheeseman said, "Look in your dictionary for the definition of all-around excellent athlete, and it'll just say Jack Norton." Every school benefits from athletes who can play multiple sports at a high level. Over my 35-plus years at Blackford, Jack always comes to mind when I think of those kids. He added he was a three-sport athlete who always filled crucial roles at critical positions and set some records along the way. I'm thankful he played for us, and I'm glad he continued his influence as a coach for many years too. Norton also helped the basketball team to a 15-7 record his senior year. His coach then, Rick Clark, said that he was very good with Bill Davis and Steve Strine, and Jack was an all-around great player. He could score, but he did everything else very well. He was smart and worked hard at it. A longtime math teacher, Norton also coached baseball and girls basketball at Blackford. His baseball teams won 105 games over 7 years as coach, including the 1993 sectional. And his girls basketball teams won 46 games in just over 6 full seasons. Jack and his wife Beth live in Hartford City. They've got 2 kids, Brannigan and Allie, and he is the new member of our Athletic and Success Hall of Fame. Come on up, Norton. Jack Norton.
Well, I can promise you this won't take as long as Beth did. And Strobel, I'm sorry for banging on you in your little bio about hitting a golf ball. I couldn't resist. First of all, I'd like to thank my family. I'd like to thank my wife, Beth, my son, Brannigan, my daughter, Allie, who couldn't be here, my daughter-in-law, Lauren, my mom, Aunt Ree, Maria, Aunt Ree, all the cheery Norton family back there. Without that huge family, I don't think I would be anything. I basically grew up as child number 13 from Grandma and Grandpa Terry. My dad was killed when I was real little, and my sister and I just became part of the family. It was a huge family. They were competitive to a fault. You had to fight to play ping pong. You had to fight to get a chance to play pool. If you weren't any good at pool, you were gone, and you had to wait until you got back in that loop, and it might be a day and a half. I learned you never forget your number when you're playing pea pool, or Grandpa Terry would really come down on you hard. I couldn't remember my number hardly ever, and I always got in trouble for it. I did become a pretty good ping pong player, and that was a lot of fun. I just can't tell you how much fun the whole family was. I didn't miss a beat growing up. It's like I had all these aunts and uncles, and a lot of them were like brothers and sisters, and it just was an amazing time. I'd like to thank the committee, Tony, committee. I was always thinking about what I would say up here. I just want to list coaches that I've had, coaches I could remember, going back through 3 different sports. I just realized I don't have my glasses, but I'll... Can I borrow yours, Bill? My Aunt Maria, she liked these glasses. They're $2.50 readers. Football, and I'm just basically going from beginning to end. Dick Peck, Mike Riggs, Stu Armstrong, Dean Terhune, still at Pee Wee, Bruce Pratt, Mike Parks, got to high school, Craig Moore and Norm Fogwell. I'd forgotten about Mr. Fogwell coaching football, but he was our freshman coach. Brad Hanner, Chuck Lorite, Dave Bowman, Rick Clark, John Oswalt, Mike Richardson, and Marty Daniel. A lot of good people, a lot of fun. One quick story, Stu Armstrong and Mike Riggs were my Pee Wee coaches when I was 11. The day before our first game, something came between the two and Stu quit. Mike didn't know the offense. So he's like, what are we going to do? And I said, I'll just call the plays. And he's like, well, you're going to have to because I don't know them. So I spent my 11-year-old year of Pee Wee football and my 12-year-old year of Pee Wee football calling plays. And so we would watch Monday Night Football, or we'd go play on the weekend, and we would draw plays up, and we'd go back to practice and put them in. So our offense changed every week. And somebody would get back and say, hey, run my play, and you'd run it. It was a great time. I mean, that's one of the things I'll never forget is having that control and being able to do whatever you wanted to do. And there were lots of good plays on Monday Night Football, lots of them. We learned to throw the ball a lot. We learned what a reverse was all about, and it just was a fantastic time. Going on to the next sport, if I can keep my phone off. The baseball list is pretty interesting. Harry Myers, Wally Ort, Kenny Ort, Russ Sutton, Baldy Wilcoxon, Marty Daniel, Cheese, and Seymour, and Steve Rinker. Just a lot of good people who could give you lots of knowledge based on where you were at in life. A really good group of people. Basketball. I have capital letters, Jack Bickle. Bickle was my 5th grade coach, 5th and 6th. And I thought he was nuts because he was so slow. But all we did was we did drills. We would dribble to the free throw line, jump, stop, and pivot. Dribble to midcourt, jump, stop, pivot. All the way down, all the way back, time and time again. And then later I'm coaching girls basketball, and what do? We dribble to the free throw line, jump, stop, pivot. I'm thinking, my God, I've become Jack Bickle. And it's true, all the drills he did were the ones we had to do later on. After Bickle, Tom Morgan, Verla Slusher, Mick Clay, Norm Fogwell was a freshman coach, and then Rick Clark, Steve Bruns, and Mike Richardson at the high school level. One other story, and I'll finish, but when I was a little kid, I was really little. Fortunately, my Uncle Tom was little as well, and so we looked like brothers. He was kind of the runt of the family. And so I didn't get to play. Like, there'd be a big group of people playing behind our house, and I was too small to play football. But my mom being the enforcer, we had a good football. I think it was my dad's. I can't remember. But Mike and Tom would want to use that football to play. And she basically told them, you can have the football to play, but Jack gets to play. And so they let me play. I never got the ball offensively. Doug Tapman was kind of my buddy, and he would try and give me the ball every now and then, but I never got it. So on defense, they would let me play, but I had to play safety. I had to go all the way in the back. And that's the only way I could get the ball. So I learned at a very, very early age, if you broke on the ball quickly and you could jump in front of someone and grab it, you could take off the other way as fast as you could. Now, after I did that, I'd get killed. But doing it time and time again was fantastic. And I think that's where I learned a lot of my instincts and desire to play. All the people, I grew up in Montpelier, and there was a ton of people from Montpelier who were older than me that I looked up to, and they were all good people. It just was an amazing time growing up over there. And Mr. Osborne, you're my math teacher. I didn't look at you the same way. I just thought you were a really good math teacher. Again, I'd just like to thank the committee, and it's been a fun ride. Teaching here at the high school has been a joy. Some people talk about how bad teaching is, but it's not. The kids haven't changed over the years. Kids are still kids. Sometimes our expectations of the kids' behavior has changed, but kids are still kids. There's still a ton of really good kids out there, and that makes it a lot of fun. One last shout out to Chris Strobel, probably the best baseball player I ever coached. Competitive, hard-nosed. I still have a couple of bad memories. One was I was throwing BP. We always played a hitting game, and we hit in groups. And I'm dogging Strobel about going to strike him out, and he went yard on me, and he just dropped the bat and stared at me. And I'll never forget that look, because he just looked at me like, what are you doing? And fortunately, when he was batting when I was coaching against the other team, he did that a few times as well. He would hit it so far, and you just knew it was gone right away. But he was a fantastic player, and congratulations to you. Thanks.
Congratulations, Norton. Well, how appropriate that Chris Strobel is next up on our list of inaugurees today. Chris was a 1995 graduate of Blackford. He was the all-time leading scorer in basketball until 2019. He also was first-team All-State as an Indiana All-Star in baseball back in 1995. He went on to play college baseball at Indiana University from 95 through 99. An all-around athlete, he also took part in tennis. Strobel was an all-CIC baseball player his junior and senior years. The 95 squad won the sectional under Jack Norton. Norton shared Chris Strobel was a tenacious athlete who made everything look easy. Chris had an old-school sense on the baseball field and expected everyone to play at their highest level. He was also a cerebral player who was always thinking 2 steps ahead of everyone. As a pitcher, he was a quick worker and an imposing player for the opposing team. He had an excellent velocity and great curveball. He was also one of the best third basemen in school history. And at the plate, he was never cheated and always led by example. And Norton continued to say, "I'll never forget his aggressive swing and the power he possessed. He hit a ball at Shenandoah that I think has still never landed. He hit it so far that the opposing coaches were just shaking their heads and laughing after the play. It was a pleasure to coach him, and I am proud to say he's one of my former players. He was a fantastic representative of the Blackford Bruins. And on a lighter note, he can hit a golf ball much further than a baseball that sometimes go over the fences as well." Well, he was an all-stater in basketball as a senior. He certainly made his mark, as he's still listed several times in the Blackford record book and the state record book, including 24 three-point shots in a game, second all-time in Indiana basketball history, and hitting all 6 of his three-point attempts in a game, 6th all-time for 100% accuracy in a game. His 213 three-point attempts his junior season is a Blackford record, as is three-pointers made in a game with 10. He scored 1,164 career points, which has him second all-time in Bruin history. His 477 points his senior year is good for third all-time in school history, and based on information gathered, he was above 30 points in a game at least 3 times during his career. His basketball coach, Rick Teets, said of him, "Chris had a tremendous basketball career in which he achieved the all-time scoring record, and he was always known as an excellent shooter. Because of his scoring ability, he always drew the opponent's best defender, playing against a very difficult schedule." Teets continued, "He had a good understanding of the game. He knew how to get open, coming off screens. He was our go-to guy in clutch situations, and I don't know the exact number, but I'm guessing he failed to reach double figures less than 5 times in his career." Now, Chris returned to his alma mater and coached the baseball team from 2011 to 2013. He's currently a sales representative for Pioneer Seeds, owner of Strobel Seeds Incorporated, and a third-generation farmer with Strobel Farms. He and his family reside in Hartford City, and he and his wife, Megan, have 2 children, Sydney and Bryce. Now in the Blackford Hall of Fame, Chris Strobel.
Well, I'm not going to get my phone out, Jack, and I'm not sure I need these.
Hey, when you get a little older, you will.
Well, yeah, I mean, how old are you now? I mean, you coached me.
I'm halfway to 112.
Okay. Well, hey, thank you. It's an honor. It feels good to be a part of the Hall of Fame, and I was going to do the same thing that Coach Norton did for me, is go back through and everybody who coached me from, in basketball, Ed McCaffrey, my elementary coach, Russ Sutton, Dave Bowman. I mean, a lot of people in here. Stroud, come back my senior year, help coach, and Rick Teets, and it was a great journey. One of my best memories in basketball, I'd have to say, is my brother and I, we played one-on-one all the time at home. Not a big family, but just one-on-one, and we beat the tar out of each other. I mean, one-on-one, come in the house, Mom, Dad, you guys know, one was mad, the other one wasn't, because whoever won. And, the joy to me was when I was a sophomore and I got to play with my brother when he was a senior on the same team here at the high school. That meant a lot to me. Baseball-wise, growing up, all my coaches, Coach Norton, Bob Banner, Dad even coached Little League. But the one that really sticks out, we always played Wabash in Little League from 10, 11, and 12, and could never beat them. Tom Gothard was diagnosed with brain cancer that year, our 12-year-old year. And we went up there, beat Wabash, brought the trophy back, and I remember that night standing out, presenting him the trophy, and just seeing him out on that porch so happy. And, that's what athletics does. It brings everybody together, the highs and the lows, and it's just, it means a lot. One other story that I roundabout that brings kind of Blackford together, just watching this slideshow today, Craig Moore. He never coached me, really didn't even know who he was. I was in high school playing summer ball at Rocheville. Drive over there, we take a charter bus and go down to Brownsburg. And Craig was coaching at Brownsburg. And Jack can tell you here, I wasn't real fast, was I? No. So we're up, or we're down 2 runs, top of 7th inning. It's just a summer game. And Craig Moore's coaching against us, and guy throws me an inside fastball. And I took that big swing, and I dribbled it down the third base line. All the third baseman had to do was pick it up, throw me out, game over. Well, he let it go foul. Craig Moore just went nuts. Next pitch, I hit it off the scoreboard and tied the game, and we ended up winning in extra innings. Well, Craig Moore, he was intense. And from what I've heard, great coach. But when we were shaking hands, he come up to me and headbutted me, and he said, "That's the way to be a Bruin." He knew who I was. So, that's what it means to me, and go Bruins. Thank you.
Congratulations, Chris. Now we have a team to introduce, and we've got several members of that team here today, and we'll have them all come up here in just a few minutes. But let me tell you just a bit about the 71-72 boys basketball team here at Blackford High School. They're arguably the best basketball team we've ever had here. They were 22-4 that year. The 22 wins is still the most in basketball history at BHS. Their 4 losses are tied for the fewest losses, that with the 70-71 team. Much of their success was due to hitting a record 766 field goals that year, and they have the highest winning percentage, 846. The Bruins came into the season having won consecutive sectional titles. They were coming off 16-7 and 20-4 seasons the prior 2 years, and with size and experience returning, the Bruins were favored to win their 3rd straight title. The Bruins had a very successful regular season winning streak of 18 games, or a streak, of losing just 3. The Bruins' only losses were all to CIC opponents, Wabash, Huntington, and Alexandria, who won the conference that year. The Bruins defeated Marion Bennett, Mississinewa, and Oak Hill with ease to win the Grant County Invitational Tournament. And the win over Oak Hill revenged the loss to them in the Grant County Tournament in the 70 and 71 tournaments. One of the biggest wins of that year was coming from 18 points down at Muncie Northside and winning that game 89-86. After the regular season loss to Alexandria, the Bruins whipped up on Bluffton by 28, Tipton by 35, and Homestead by 23, and headed into the sectional. And they then cruised to the sectional wins, beating Pennville, beating Portland, and having just a 2-point win at Portland that year. They then crushed them in the sectional, and then won the title game over Red Key in what was unbelievably the only time Blackford ever played Red Key in basketball. Well, they went on to the Anderson Wigwam for the regional and took on a good Kokomo Hayworth team. And a little running shot by Darrell Terry at the buzzer gave the Bruins a 56-54 win. Darrell, I got to tell a story here. I was a sophomore that year up in the stands, way up in the stands at the Wigwam. When that shot went through, I was on the court with about 5,000 other people from Blackford in about 2 steps. How we didn't trample 20 people to death that night, I'll never know, but that was one of the fondest memories I ever had of watching Bruin basketball. Believe me, that was fun. And then going into the championship game, it was Anderson-Madison Heights, ranked among the state's top 20. They had Bobby Wilkerson, who, of course, went on to play at IU, went on to play in the pros for 10 years. He was good, they were good, and the Bruins took them to the wire, losing 68-64 in a real scare for them as they went on to the state finals that year. Now let me talk just a bit about after that. A senior on the team was Darrell, of course, and he said, "Coach stressed defense and a full court press that would shut down the competition," and he usually did. What made the press so effective was our big guys. Led by Orrin, they were so athletic and quick that teams always turned the ball over. He said, "We were successful due to how deep our bench was in every position." Dave Bergdahl said, "Our team was just that, a team. We were not only teammates on the court, but good friends off the court. And those close friendships still exist today," he continued. "Under Coach Straub, we were taught to be mentally and physically tough, giving our best effort, and winning was always the goal. Even in practice, almost every drill and scrimmage was part of a competitive nature with consequence for losing. Coach Straub strongly believed in playing a pressuring shutout defense and an aggressive offense. I believe on several occasions that our team won the game due to our opponent's inability to deal with the constant pressure we applied." Bergdahl said he believes that what they learned, that they went beyond basketball. He said, "Our team was successful, record-wise, but many personal life lessons were also learned in the process. Those lessons continually guide me in the way I live my life now, and I guess they always will." Let me just read off the names of those who were a part of the 71-72 Bruins, and I'd like them all to come up here if they would. Greg Slentz, the late Chuck Noble, Max Strobel, Gib Worley, Mark Lachine was a manager, Larry Blunt was a manager, Darrell Terry, Dave Bergdahl, Dave Verona, Don Yaden, Ross Elwood, the late Orrin Bargerhuff, Dave Fuquay, Tim Oberholzer, and of course, head coach John Straub, assistant coach Mike Cooper, and assistant coach the late Ross Myers. Ladies and gentlemen, your 71-72 Bruins, please come up and take your spot in our Hall of Fame. And we're going to give them all a chance to say a few words. So, since maybe we haven't seen you in, a couple of weeks, or 20 or 30 years, introduce yourself. Okay. Take the microphone and introduce yourself and say a few.
Okay. I'm Daryl Terry from the big clan over here. And first, congratulations to everybody that is inducted today. It is an honor to be part of this team. And especially congratulations to my nephew, Jack. And he's right. The older uncles taught him everything he knows. I had a wonderful surprise. My son from San Diego flew in last night and got here this morning. So Alex is here with my son Brad and my daughter Lindsay, my wife Sheila, and my brothers and sisters, and my great niece Callie. So being on this team was very easy for me. I felt very lucky. I'm a guy that was 5'10", 135 pounds. All right? I tried to make myself, I knew what Coach Strout wanted. He wanted guys that could play defense and run forever. So I ran cross country just to get in shape for basketball. I didn't like going out there running miles and miles, but I did it so that I could play defense, and that's what I did. But for me, I felt very, very lucky because I'm up front pressing, and I got all these big guys behind me, and I could do just about anything I want. These guys would go get the ball. We put pressure on them, and they would steal the ball. So 3 people I'd like to mention. Chuck Noble, who was my best friend growing up, left way too early. He went out there every day and practiced and made us better. He didn't get a lot of court time, but he worked his butt off every day to help us get better. Orrin Bargerhoff. Orrin didn't say a lot, okay? He didn't talk a lot, but let me tell you, he was an enforcer. I knew that if somebody got by me, they had to go through him, and he was a force. I remember one story about him. I don't know what I did, what made him mad, but I went underneath the basket in practice, and he was at the top of the foul line. He turned and threw a pass. If it would have hit me, it'd have knocked me out. It hit the back wall, and it went back to him at the foul line. But another story about him, I went in for a layup, and this guy from Wabash took my feet out, and I landed on my back. And I think I might have been knocked out for a second. I woke up, and the first guy there had this guy pinned was Orrin Bargerhoff. I knew he had my back. I'm glad I got to meet Timmy's son. I played baseball in Babe Ruth with him for a couple years. And playing next to him on the basketball floor, he made my job easy. They had to worry about him. They didn't have to worry about me, okay? He was a great athlete, and I'm so glad I got to meet you. So, where's Coach at? Okay. I wanted to say a couple things about Coach Strout. Make him good. Well, you can't make me run anymore, okay? As Dave said in his comments, Coach made us tough. He made importance of winning. And I know there were plenty of practices after we were done. We went in the locker room, and there was guys in there who didn't have a lot of good things to say about him. Okay? They were really, really upset with all the running we had to do. But we were in shape, and we were tough. Oh, Ross never said anything bad. Now, Dave, maybe. But I have to tell one story. I think I was a junior. We were playing Huntington, and we didn't lose many games. and we were playing awful. And at the end of the game, they just killed us. And I remember Coach coming in the locker room, he was just screaming at us, and there was somebody's gym bag on the center of the floor. I think he kicked it all the way and out the door. He was so upset with us. But on a serious note, Coach, you taught me the importance of working hard, not giving up, and knowing that if you put the work in, you'll be successful. And I live that every day of my life. I tell my kids that, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I won't take a lot of your time. I'll let these guys spout off for a while. But the only thing I want to say, I was very lucky to have these guys, all their abilities. I really appreciate it. I was very fortunate. There's a lot of coaches around here that didn't have the material life that I had. So I realize how important and how lucky I was. The only thing I want to say is the last game that we played against Madison Heights is probably the best game we played all year. Even though we got beaten, they averaged about 53% from the free throw line for the year. And against us in the final game, they made 21 out of 20. Oh, you're old. I'm losing my mind, aren't I? How can you make 21 out of 20? Well, they made 19 and tipped in the one they missed. And, you don't expect that. Things like that, if I hadn't been so lucky, they had to be lucky to hit over 100% from the free throw line, and that probably is what beat us. So, no more from me. We'll turn it over to Ross.
Thank you. Well, I think everything's pretty much been said about the team, other than there are so many stories that Dave and I get together a lot, and some of the stories we can tell, some we can't tell. One that I kind of mentioned to Larry, and we already talked about Coach Strout being a defensive coach and really stressing that and always wanting to press. And one time in practice, he became upset with one of the guys who didn't make it today. He said, "What? Get your shoes off and get out here." He put Larry into presses. I don't know whether we could press him, but that's how intense our practices were. And I think we played like we practiced, and we practiced like we played, and he stressed that. And one other thing I need to do, I need to set the record straight, Bill. That was a set play. Coach Stroud said, "Elwood, when that ball comes in your direction, you act like you're going to catch it, and then let it go through." And Barker will catch it and put it in. That's what happened. It must have been a really good play. But I cherish those memories that I have, and the time back almost 40, 50 years ago. Wow. And it's great to see Alex and Jody here. That's great. Good to see you. I'll turn it over to Dave.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the board and Mr. Rubin for this honor. It's truly an honor. When we start talking about these stories, I am going to tell one. Pretty much what I was going to say was said by Ed, so I kind of stole my thunder here a little bit. But I do have to tell one story. Coach, sorry. But back when I don't remember exactly when the date was, and maybe you can help me, Jack, we had the Hardwood Homecoming here. And that was back when the first 4 years we played, the next 4 years we played, the next 4 years, and we had that ball game there. We had it out here at the gym. And Coach Strout was one, and I will say this about him, was that he never asked us to do something he couldn't. He would always practice with us, play with us, and so forth. But we were playing, and we were older then, and we were pretty old. And I think it was probably 25 years ago, I would imagine, and we were not doing so well, and coach comes into the huddle and says, I think we need to press. And I went, what? No. And actually, to be honest with you, I even figured out the guy on the other team that I wasn't going to guard, that he wasn't going to run up and down the court either. So, it was a great time. We had a wonderful time, a great season, and it was truly great to be a Bruin. Go Bruins.
I just want to thank the board for this. It's a great team. We were a great team, and they've already said it. We were a team. And when you move away, I've been away for over 20 years now from the area, and you really miss it. But coming back to the school, you can't cherish anything better than 4 years of high school basketball, 4 years with Coach Strout, what he taught each and every player he had is stuck with every one of us. And thanks again.
The 71-72 Bruins. Thank you, guys. Well, I think I'll turn it back over now to Dave for some final comments here as we kind of wrap this thing up today.
Thank you, Ed. I'd like to thank everyone for attending today. And if you get a chance, Tony's been working on the new display on the west hallway here in the gym for the Hall of Fame. So if you get a chance, go take a look at that. And Tony needs to say a couple things, but before he does, would all of the inductees please stand, and if we could give them a round of applause here, please.
Okay, as we wrap this up, what we'd like to do is have all those inducted will go back in the back corner there. We'll take a picture of the individuals first, and then we'll put the team in behind them and get some pictures there. And then if you haven't already, if you can stay for the games today, we play Andren, defending state champions are here at 3:30 JV, so we'll recognize all those who can stay immediately after that game. And again, for family members here, of those who couldn't make it, you're welcome to be introduced as well. But there's a sheet out there, and what we'll do is about 4:25, if you would meet at the main office, which is, I believe, still in the same place it was, and everybody was here, or we'll call you probably around the end of the third quarter JV game, and then as soon as that JV game's over, we'll get you guys recognized and on your way, or you can stay and watch the game. Those who do come back, your families will just sign in. All of you will get in free to the game, and they have lists at both sides. So again, thank you for attending the 6th induction. We certainly appreciate you all being here. It's always great to relive a lot of great memories. So thank you. Appreciate it.